Hi, I'm Corey. Welcome to Creating with Scraps. I had failed to answer a couple of questions in the last video, so I'm going to do that today. And then I had, one of the things I had said that I would do at the beginning and end of my flips, flaps, and folds, there were a couple of additional folds that I hadn't shown. So I had intended to do that yesterday and I forgot. And in order to keep these kind of brief, what I hope to do is, or what I plan to do is just to do one at a time. So I'll make several short videos that just show one fold so that they'll be quick. One of the questions that I forgot to answer yesterday was how I get my paper so flat. And this is one of my methods, and this is a method that anybody can do. Let me see if I can zoom out just a little bit. There we go. Anybody can do because you don't have to have any tools. You can get, this happens to be 1/8 inch plywood, but you can get 1/4 inch plywood, any kind of plywood, and then Home Depot or Lowe's will cut it for you. And then these clamps were maybe $1 a piece. They're, you know, Harbor Freight or some such discount store. But what I do is when I've coffee dyed my paper, I will put it in, usually overnight, and that's all it takes. But I'll put it in this press board, basically, as it were, and it makes my coffee dyed paper flat. I especially do this with my tracing or transparency paper because not transparency, tracing paper or vellum, because that gets really wrinkly when you coffee dye it. And most paper does, but it just makes it flat. Now, if I'm doing something that's a little bit thicker, or if I've got a big stack of paper, I'll use this. And these are just wing nuts and bolts. And I can put a much thicker stack in here and it'll give it enough pressure. And these small ones have been more than sufficient for what I need. But if you need something a little stronger or bigger, you can use any kind of clamps. It doesn't really matter if, you know, these are just fast and easy and inexpensive, which is why I chose those. That is how I get my paper flat. Okay, I'll zoom back in a little bit. Another question that I was asked, okay, that was that one. Another one was about the fold samples. Another person asked about if I would show the pens I use for die cuts and to color and my process. And there are already a couple videos out, a couple different ones, in fact, where I do layered die cuts and then where I do the coloring and embossing process. So if you put my name in there and look for the word die cuts, you should be able to find it. All right. I've had several people ask if I would share when I do something, or, you know, quickly go over it and show what I've done. So I'm happy to do that. I got to play with Tracy Fox from Tracy Fox Creative. She made a video today using paint as texture. And while it's not necessarily my favorite technique, it's really cool and it can add a lot of fun. I like to make a mess, but I just don't like to make too much mess. So, but it was fun. I had a really good time. And because I'm me, and Tracy used a lot of household items to create the texture and different things that she'd found. But I chose to use paper scraps. And I'll show you really quickly what different paper scraps I used to create these different textures. And I'm not going to go into it in specific detail, but the idea is that you can use what you've got. I used some canvas paper. I used, I used some net. I used something that I had dry embossed. I used that cool cross stitch paper as that might actually be my favorite. I think this gives you the coolest texture when you do that. I don't know how well you can see it, but the cross stitch paper was great. I used a bit of wallpaper, raised textured wallpaper. I used some cardboard or chipboard. I used this somewhere, and I don't think it was as effective, but it's just a metallic sheet paper. I used the doily, this textured doily. I used paper that's already pre-embossed. It's got raised dots or bumps on it. I used wadded up tissue paper. I used some paper that I had sewn on. So I use these a lot of times when I create the clusters. And I'd used a bit of this and stamped it in the paint and put it right on here. Braille paper, just the raised dots from Braille paper. That didn't really work as well as I'd hoped because the Braille dots aren't as high. Here I just kind of drug it through. That's this one right here. I just took this piece of folded card and pulled the paint right through it, and it actually gave it a really kind of cool texture. I used a piece of cork paper. That's this one here, and it was just okay. I tried the stencil here, and maybe because my paint was so thick, but this is just a piece of leftover negative space from something that was punched or dyed. This was the velvet paper, and it didn't really offer much texture at all. This was a bit of lace. I think that's this one here. And so you kind of get a cool, a little bit of it. You get to, maybe I could have been more careful and gotten a different result, but essentially that was using a little bit of lace. And then here didn't work so great. I used the edge of a torn piece. But the reason I'm showing you this is you don't have to have any special tools. You don't have to have anything. You can get, Walmart or a craft store dollar paint and have a whole lot of fun, or you can get it at a thrift store or something with just what you've already got, just the textured pieces that you already have in your paint. So that was fun. Please check out Tracy Fox Creative, her video, because it's that sample book, and I tell you, it is a whole lot of fun. I had mentioned that I wanted to get my stamps. I had 2 of these old sewing machine drawers full of stamps, and I've narrowed it down to 1, and I've got it way more organized. But I also used specific stamps, or some of the stamps, to create these 2 collage boards, and they're not 100% dry. I just used the Tim Holtz Distress Collage Medium to put these down, just kind of like you'd use Mod Podge. But I cannot wait. And in fact, I was thinking, maybe it'll be another series about different ways to use your postage stamps. Now, I know there's a gazillion videos on how to make faux postage stamps, but honestly, I got these eBay or Etsy for nothing, for almost very little money. I'm sure that more unique stamps probably cost a lot more, but it's very easy to get postage stamps very inexpensively. And I've got them from all over the world. And just as an interesting side note, I've noticed that profiles are the most common. People are more common than items when you see postage stamps from around the world. And Queen Elizabeth is probably on more stamps than anybody else, or maybe I just have a lot of hers. But it was so relaxing. It was so much fun. I just took a piece of regular copy paper and an 8.5 or 11 by 14, I think is what these are. And I just covered them. I just put collage medium down, put the stamps on, random kind of, but I was paying attention to colors and such. And then I put some more collage medium on top, and they've been drying. That was a whole lot of fun. So if it's something you're interested in, I highly encourage it. It was fun. The other thing I did today was I did one of Gail's 2 recent videos. I was intrigued by her take on clusters, or a different way to do clusters. And so because I'm me, I went way overboard, but I had way too much fun. And I often say that we learn best from each other, and I'm always inspired by the creative people that I surround myself with. But I wouldn't have made or shared this video if I didn't do something different. So in other words, if I were just going to review or recommend Gail's video, I wouldn't have made another video for it, because you've got Gail's great samples and great sharing of technique. So I changed up a little bit, and that's what I like to do. I like to be inspired by other people and then change it and make it just a little bit different. So I made some, like Gail did. Her formula was a little bit different, and she used book page, piano doily lace, and then scraps, coffee dyed scraps that had been stamped in neutral colors. And love it. She did a beautiful job, and I'll link her video below in the description box. But I didn't have much doily, so I didn't use doily. I changed it up. I used some packing paper and some piano roll and a couple different kinds of book page, and then the stamped neutral images. And she also used lace, so I put lace on. So I stamped quite a few, and I made a bunch. And these stamps are just yard sale stamps. I don't think I paid 50 cents a piece for any of them. Maybe I should zoom in a little bit. There we go. I don't think I paid 50 cents a piece. And I used a variety of styles. Like this is obviously a really heavy stamp, and this is a lot more fine. But it was fun. And then I used this one I deliberately offset my butterflies to see what that looked like. But I did what Gail did, and I kind of emulated what she did, and I did not ink these. But I like to ink, so some of them I inked. And then I thought, well, gosh, maybe it'll be kind of fun to use my pen. So I used my pen on several of these, and like this, here's a great example. It looks really cool this way, but it gives you a completely different effect, just changing it up a little bit. I just used my pen on these and on the stamps, and then a spritz of shimmer spray, and this is what I ended up with. And it was fun. And part of the reason I did this is because I had time and because I wanted to, but also because Gail's word this year is play, and it reminded me that when we try our ideas, sometimes they're going to work, sometimes they're not. But bottom line is, it's a whole heck of a lot of fun. And I made a ton. And as I was playing with these, I learned, like, here's a great example. This is just my colored pens directly stamped on here. And this is my colored pen spritzed with shimmer spray. And I'll show you that real quick because it's kind of cool. But look at the different effect you get just by giving it a little, maybe I'm too far up, little squirt of shimmer spray. And I love the way that changed it. And then I made a whole bunch of them. I just stamped, and it didn't take long at all. I just stamped. And I most often use an off-white thread, so I used my off-white thread to make these things. And these can go on the front of cards, they can go in the front of journals, they can go anywhere. I could watercolor this or add ink to it later on if I wanted. Maybe I should zoom out a bit. There we go. But way, way fun. So if you're wanting, these are all used scraps. If you're wanting a fun way to play, nothing cost, and it was a great way to spend a good chunk of the day. And then Gail used black thread, so I tried it with black thread. Off-white is my kind of go-to, but it was fun to try something different. And a lot of times people say, well, what do you do when you're in a creative rut? Well, copy something that you like. Gail said to make the stitches messy, so I made the stitches messy and tried a bunch of different things. I put a brad on here, I overlapped it. But bottom line, it was a whole ton of fun, and so I would really encourage you to give it a shot. All right, and I will show you exactly what I did if you like the colored image, simply because I just put the book page away. I was being efficient, and I cleaned up, and I put the book page that I need to show you the sample away. But here we go. I'll just grab a piece of book page, and I'll put a couple down just for the sake of a couple. Right there we go. Let me make sure I'm in frame. And I used this. The solid ones I just stamped with a black memento ink. And these, like I said, these are all yard sale stamps. I got them, I don't know, over the years for maybe 50 cents a piece. So here's my method, and it's kind of not impressive, but there you go. So I'm going to take, these are Zig clear brush markers, but you can use any markers. Marvy, you can use your Copics if you want, if that's what you have. So use your markers. It doesn't matter. You can see I'm not precise, I'm not careful. I just color the image. And I'm going to show you this twice so you can see the difference for yourself. So color the image, and I'll stamp it. Now, if you're wanting pristine stamping, this is not the video for you because that's not the effect you get. All right, stamped image. Oh, there we go. And the same thing again. That was just plain old inked and stamped. The same old. Now, I shouldn't say that because I did use shimmer spray on here earlier, and so it's probably still a little bit of shimmer spray left. But it gives you kind of a different look. And I chose the shimmer spray. I was going to use water, and I'm like, no, Gail glitter sparkles. She likes sparkles. I'm going to try something sparkly. So what I did was I did the same thing, and then this happens to be what I've got, craft shimmer spray. I don't know, but I would imagine just about any would work. I just don't want to spray it on the paper. So I pulled up my spray like this, and I gave it just a light mist, and I got there. We'll just use my hand. That's what those are for. And then I'll stamp the image there. I don't know if you can see it on the video or not, or on the, yeah, but it gives it a little sparkle, a little sheen, and this one is flat, and this one's got a little bit of a sparkle to it, and it's just really pretty, and it was really simple. These were really dirt cheap stamps, so I don't care if it gets ruined, but it doesn't seem to be ruining them. Anyway, that's what I did there. That was a whole lot of fun, just using book page. Last thing, I think, for today. So these are some of the folds that were in there, and today I'm going to do a short one, and it's probably one of the easiest things. And if I've already shared it, I apologize, but I looked over and I don't think I have. I had it in my stack of 2 share. This uses 2 6x6 pieces of paper, or 1 12x12 sheet cut into 4 sections, and it's just a simple little front back pocket. I mean, when you see how easy this is to construct, you're going to say, really, Corey? I use the scoreboard simply because it's easier, but you need 2 pieces of 6x6 paper, and if you choose to take a divot, I like to take a divot, then you need a circle punch or some kind of a way to trace and cut a circle. It gives you a pocket, a little flap, and then a pocket on the back. And here it is again, the same exact idea. Sorry, I'm probably a little too, there we go. But this time I put, in case it needed something a little bit chunkier, I put those little gussets that I showed how to make. And the same exact things, pocket in the back, pocket in the front. And this is all there is to it. With using the 6x6 side, you need to make 2 scores. On one piece, you score at 2 inches. On the other one, you score at 3.5. And the only thing you really have to pay attention to is what is going to be your front. So where do I want my front? The 2-inch score is going to be this flap. So whatever piece I want over here is where I score 2 inches. And it's going to be right here in the butterfly leaves if I go that way. So maybe I don't want that there. Do I want, I don't want the solid color because I like the way it overlaps like this. So maybe I'll do, because I'm going to fold it. So I'm going to score this at 2 inches. And that really is your only choices. I mean, as far as what choices you have to make to do this. I'm going to score this at 2 inches. And so this will be my front flap. And then my second piece, I score at 3.5. And where I scored at 3.5, that 3.5 inch section is what's going to be over here. So as I'm looking at this, do I want the 3.5 inch section there? Well, this would wrap like this. Do I want it to be like this? So that's kind of pretty. So you get to play with however you want it to look. So 3.5 inches, that's going to be in the front. And I scored it, folded it, and it's that simple. It's literally, you stick it one right in the other. Now, if I wanted to take a divot out, right, I use my circle punch, and actually I will do that. I mark it simply because I'm not great at eyeballing the center. Let me move it up here. And this is 6-inch paper, so I'm going to mark it at 3 inches. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, mark it at 3 inches. I don't even have to match up my divots because they're not going to show. They're not going to be right next to each other. Some people call them thumb notches. I call it a divot because I'm taking out a little piece, but whatever term you like. And I will ink them because I ink. And I had to ink the other edges first to make it a little bit faster. So ink and ink. And make sure it's not, I guess it doesn't really matter if it's upside down because I'm going to do it like this. All right. Then I'm going to put where my fold is, right? I'm going to put glue at the top and the bottom to that fold. Now eventually I'm going to put glue on the other side, but I want to make sure I line it up correctly before I do that. So I'm going to put glue at the top and the bottom to that fold. And then I just line the 2 pieces up. and fold them in. Now, this was not my original idea. I'm sure I saw it somewhere at some point and thought, oh, I've got to do that. But I've had it, like I said, in my stack to share for a while now, and I thought, well, okay, I'll do that. And then the same thing on the back. Once you've got the first piece in, you can choose to put a little bit of glue right here, but you don't necessarily need to. You can just put glue on the top and bottom again. And there you go. That is a really fun, super quick little pocket, and you can tuck it into your journal just like this, or paper clip it, or you can even just put this in the mail as a bit of a happy mail. All right, thank you for watching. More of these will come over the next couple of weeks as far as the other pieces that I was going to show you, and I've got some other ideas of things that I might share, just depending on time, but we will see. Thank you for watching, and happy creating.